right, guys. I am Doug Brunner, and this is The Toast, and we're finally back after taking a little rest. COVID beat me up pretty good, but I'm back, and I'm really excited here to be sitting here today. Number one, because I like to do this, and number two, I'm with a good buddy of mine, Luis Gil. He is the head farm manager for my father-in-law, Russell Harris. He also has a lot of other things going for himself. Pretty incredible story. So we're kind of featuring right now, doing something on young entrepreneurs. And when the thought came to my mind, I get to be around a lot of super talented young guys. Me and Lewis were talking before. We're kind of at that echelon where we're not young no more. We're kind of getting to the older group. We want to stay in the younger group, but Lewis and me have been friends for probably 10 years now, and I've been fortunate enough to know him and learn from him, and so I'm excited today. Thank you for sitting here. I know he keeps asking me. He's maybe a little nervous sitting here, but that's okay. We're going to get through it today, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man.
No, thank you, Lewis. So, Lewis, number one is where did the farming deal start? Because for you, it sounds like it's ran in your blood your whole life, right?
Yeah, so first off, man, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, cheers. We're going to cheers again later. Yep.
And so, I mean, if we take it back, my family never owned any land to farm, but my dad started. My dad always worked for, he was always involved in ag, and he did a bunch of stuff in the vineyard industry, and he was working for Jack Ferrier. And Jack Ferrier, at one time, he was like one of the largest wine grape growers in the world, I believe.
Russell actually did a podcast with Jack, right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Ago. Okay.
Jack now is like 90 years old.
Really?
And so my dad and my uncle worked for him for a good chunk of their career. And so ever since then, I mean, Fridays would come around, and I'd go with Fridays after school. I'd go with my dad to go harvest some grapes, and it'd be mechanical grape harvesting. And that's when Jack had 30-something machines, and he was up and down the valley.
So your dad was managing for him, or
So my dad would manage a lot of the equipment for him,
all the harvesting,
and he would go out there and supervise stuff and go to different ranches and just follow up on all the work they were doing.
Yeah.
And so ever since I was a kid, I'd go with him.
But doesn't your dad, he still does harvest, right?
Yeah, so after kind of Jack got away from the business, him and my dad and my uncle Ignacio went off on their own, and they bought some machines from Jack.
Okay.
And they've been picking grapes here on their own for the last maybe 20 years, 15 years or so.
Wow.
15, 20 years.
That's awesome.
And I mean, it's always been around.
But I know now your dad's been helping you, right? On somebody, because you're you got a lot. People don't know always about Lewis, but he's got more going on than people know. He can manage. He's got his eyes on so many different things. That's one thing I respect about him, is holding it calm and cool all the time. And, one thing you always talk about is just the relationship with your family. And that's something I was really blessed with working with my dad. And I think it sounds like your dad really set a stage to who you became today. It started young, but as you started growing in your career, and now you're fortunate to still do some things with him, right? I mean,
sure. I mean, not really so much with my dad anymore, but I mean, the weekends come around, and he's out there looking at some of the stuff that I've been fortunate enough to kind of take on, and go by my ranches and just
critique
critique me for sure. Hey,
you're never doing good enough, but you're always doing good, right?
Got all these weeds over here. What are you gonna do about them? And no, but it's been good. So I mean that then we go into the I don't know, early college stages is when I really. So before ag, I wanted to do construction management, and my dad at one stage of his early career, he was building a couple homes a year.
Hmm.
He would buy like an acre or two and
Like custom homes.
custom homes, and they were simple. They were like 1,500, 2,000 square
Yeah.
foot homes, something simple. He would build them and then he would sell them, and so I kind of wanted to jump in that deal. And then like in 2008 when that bubble bursted in the housing and deal.
Everybody ran from that a little bit, right?
Yeah, and then so my cousin Jose Hernandez,
Yep.
he was looking for a field checker.
Also known as Pepe.
Yeah, but he was looking for a field checker, and he was he was a PCA for Steve Renna,
Mhm.
and he was field checking for Steve Renna, and then he was at the stage where he wanted to start growing and get more cells, but I think he needed to get a field checker, so I kind of jumped on his spot, and then he trained me a lot to show me all the
Were you
stuff.
doing that through college?
Yes.
Okay.
And then so I started field checking for Steve Renna, and then I did a lot of that for Steve Renna out of before it was Western Farm Service, and then it was Crop Production
well,
Service.
First of all, I guess how old are you for people listening right now?
Yeah, I'm 35.
35.
Yeah.
35. So it wasn't too long ago that you were doing that, right? I mean,
Yeah,
seems
I
like
mean,
a long time ago,
Yeah,
but
maybe 11 years ago.
so you're checking fields. You're in college at Fresno State, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, I went to Merced College and
Okay.
then Fresno State.
Okay. And you were studying.
Plant science.
Okay. So you changed from construction after Merced College.
Yeah. So at first it started off at Fresno City.
Okay.
And there's no ag involved, and I was just trying to get my GE out of the way.
Got it.
And then it got into the ag.
I feel like so many young guys don't always know what they're going to do. I thought I was going to be a dairyman, right?
Yeah.
And then I thought maybe I was going to be something else. But life just kind of takes us in certain
Hey,
ways.
You don't know until you try.
But you start finding a passion for being a PCA, right? I mean,
sure.
in that. But along that, I just know who you are. You had goals. Maybe I don't know if you thought you would be as successful as you are today. I know you had goals, right? What after you start becoming a PCA, what was your goal? Was it to be like Pepe, like to start selling fertilizers? I mean, was
So,
that kind
yeah,
of the next in
Yeah, I
line for
wanted
you?
to become a PCA, and I'm thinking,
They live a good life,
you're out on the ranches, you're driving around, you're checking for bugs and taking soil samples. Man,
hanging out at the bar.
I can do that all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And just that, my people skills, my public speaking, it's not the best. And so I think if I would have tried to become a salesman, I probably would have been a shitty one, right?
But you know your shit. That's the difference. And you don't lie. You know your shit, and you're always on top of it. So sometimes that overcomes a smooth talker, right? We'll maybe get more into that later. But you are. I'm a guy who might be a little full of shit, but you're always pretty precise with everything that you do. So you're going to the PCA, and then what happens next? Because I all of a sudden I think a guy who might be my father-in-law pulls up on you, right?
Oh yeah, so I was checking fields for Steve Renna, and the field I was checking happened to be Russell's field.
Okay.
And I don't forget that day. It was at Red Top Ranch, and I'm in there taking a bunch of soil samples, and I would pull a trailer, and I would haul like a little
Quad?
No, it was like a gator.
Okay.
And Russell pulls up next to me. I'm by the reservoir, and he says, "Hey, did you hook up that trailer?" Like, yeah, I hooked it up. You tied down the gator? I was like, yeah, I tied it down. He was kind of impressed that I tied that stuff down, right? I think I was like 18 or something. And he wrote his name on a card and his phone number, and he gave it to me. He goes, here, let's talk later. I'm looking for somebody to help me out.
Okay.
So anyways, so it started there, and then a couple years passed by.
So you don't see him again?
I would see him because I
Okay.
would go there, and then
Okay.
and then Jason would invite me to lunch in the office.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And I was freaked out every time I'd go in there. And so then it got to the point where Russell offered me a job. And man, I mean, I couldn't sleep like for a week, right? And so
Are you still in college though?
yeah, I'm still in college.
Okay.
And I said, hey, Russell, I want to finish college. And Russell says, what do you want to learn? I'll teach you. Right. And I said, well, I just want to finish out college, get my PCA license, and then I'll come on. Then maybe I'll, let's talk about it. So then like a few months passed by, I forget, and then he finally tells me, hey, what are you gonna do? I need to know. I'm like, well, I want to finish school. He's like, I'll let you finish school then. And you still come work for us.
That's cool.
And so then that took place, and I finally jumped on board on October 1st, 2009. And
Shit, that's what, 13 years, almost.
Yeah,
it's gonna be 13.
And Russell says, "What do you want to become, a PCA for the rest of your life?" I have this text message. It's like, it's like a story, right?
Yeah.
I still got it. And he said he was texting me while he was driving down Avenue 9. And it's like, you'll learn about money, you'll learn about finances, you'll learn about development, if you come help us out. And man, he was right. I mean, he made me open my eyes and see
I
the big
firmly
picture.
agree with that. And that's the story. I will say, I talk a lot about Russell in my podcast because he's a mentor to me, just like he has been with you.
Sure.
And he sees talent. I think most successful people do see talent, because once you get as big as somebody like him or whoever you are, it takes people to make it, right?
Sure. Yeah,
And
you got to know somebody.
And he saw something in you that he wanted at a young age, right? To be part of his team, his family. And you've, I think, done that tenfold. So now let's get into, something for young guys. I always try to bring it back to young guys in this is having fun, is work. To be good in what you do, it takes effort. Like, it's like Luis going to college, working on the weekends, working during the week, going above and beyond to be successful, that somebody sees that you have something different than the kid at the football game on Saturday nights, screwing around, doing whatever it is. I'm sorry, but I just don't really think that was Luis Gil throughout his college. I mean, I get it. We all want to have fun. We all need that, but I think you had your mindset made up at a young age that I want to be successful. I want to be good at what I do, and you've proved it. You're a professional in everything you do. You've brought so much to the Harris family, to the overall Harris Enterprises that I think not many normal people do. And then I think one thing you took when you came on is what you said: learn about finance, learn about development. It wasn't just being a PCA, right? So let's talk about the transition into coming into a big business and what the choices you made while you were here, what the learning, and how you took those things and, grabbed onto a guy like Russell or people here at this company.
Yeah, I mean, so once, and Russell, when you're working with Russell, I mean, there's no limit. He wants to do everything right. I think that's been like a huge benefit to me learning all this stuff, because I mean, there's no end to your learning with him. He wants to do it right. There's just no limit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one of the, I mean, it's been very helpful for anybody that works around him.
Absolutely. Trust me, I know.
So, I mean, that alone there, I mean, there's just, if you're not going to, if you fail in something around here, or around, on the ranch side of things, at least, it's because you usually didn't try hard enough, because he wants it done right. So, I mean, there's just, you just learn.
What coming into this, what are some of the hardest things that you learned from transitioning out of school, out of working with your dad, and out of just, the PCA, what you were doing, training up to be, what, when you got into this, was probably some of the biggest learning curves? What was hard for a guy like you, right?
Probably, gaining the respect from all of our employees that work out in the field.
Agreed.
Gaining their respect and trying to build a relationship with them, because, man, those guys work hard.
Yes, they do.
and for you to be respected by them, you gotta show them you can handle it. And it's hard to show them because we're so big now, and we were big back then. But it's hard to show them by example because you can't be there all the time. But showing
Kyle Espinola begs to differ. If you don't know who Kyle is, Kyle does my well, I'm partners with Kyle on topping, spreading, and everything. And he says, I don't know how many acres Russell farms, anywhere from 50 to 20,000. I don't really know. Lewis would know the exact number. But he goes, I don't know how, but the man is a ghost. He says he's always there and he always knows. So to say you're not everywhere, some people beg the difference.
Hey, well, Kyle's good, man. That guy's.
I'm just giving a joke. Like he just says, you are there and you know. And it sounds like, along with knowing under that, over the time I've been here or around over the past, actually, my first day, I left working for my family, and I think it was February 1st or January. I don't know the exact day. My first day, Russell said, go meet Lewis in Madera. I still remember I met you at the junior college in Madera on Avenue 12. And because it was before I was going to farm tomatoes, so I want to start learning about almonds or what my other family does in business. And Lewis picked me up at Avenue 12. I still remember. I don't know if you remember
I
this.
do, and we went to Brian Richburg's. Right?
Yes, we went to Brian Richburg's, and they were out there pruning. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I was used to milking tits,
Yeah.
That's for cows. But and Lewis is telling me, this is how you got to prune. This is how you got to do this. They're tying trees. And I'm just like, whoa. And then we're back in Madera. It was kind of, let me think about this. Oh, damn. I remember you guys were drilling a lot of wells. You were testing wells. I just remember it's kind of a chaotic time for him, kind of preparing for the next fertilizers. You're running around. And I'm just thinking, holy cow. It just flying. We're going to lunch. He's like 3 minutes for lunch. Go boom, boom, boom. So he kind of gave me, and I was probably like a ball and chain to him because it was just like, oh, you got to take this dumb nut cow guy with him. But I was in awe of how fast and how many things were moving around. But what I was going to get to, what I've seen is as things have evolved in business, right? Since in the last 10 years, environmental, labor, everything has changed for you, right? Half the time I call you, you're like, shit, I'm going through this or that in the office, right? It's
Sure.
I'm sure your office time is a lot more than you want it to be because I know you like being on the ranch.
Well, I mean, it was, but then I got Francisco Del Rio.
Where I'm going, but keep going. Yeah.
He's been a great help. Dominic Chang, being awesome with helping out with our water, and I got Willie. I mean, all the guys, Oscar, all the guys out there are amazing.
So when you started, you had none of those people.
So
or when I started, like 10 years ago, or
Yeah.
probably 7, 8 years ago,
right.
you had none of those people. And I'm just like, how does this guy do this? And what I'm saying is you've evolved a bunch of these young guys along the way with you.
Oh yeah, and then watching like some of the irrigators that were just irrigators before
Become a ranch
become a ranch foreman.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of those guys were just irrigators, and they're like they were just like a diamond in the rough, man.
Yeah.
They've been a blessing to us. And they were just on a quad before, checking water, checking for sprinklers, and now they're on their truck,
calling the shot.
Yeah, making some decisions on the ranches, ordering fertilizer and stuff like that.
So you're evolving these guys, right? You're finding diamond in the roughs. Is it? I'm sure that's a joy, right? As in the upper management that you're at, to be able to work with these hardworking people and evolve people. Is that something you really enjoy, or is there something else you?
I think since I'm like I understand their culture.
Yeah.
They're Hispanic. I'm Hispanic, and I just knowing that and not being afraid to show them. I noticed a few other some of the ex-employees that used to work here, they were kind of afraid to show all their cards to their
group.
unders, and these guys didn't know much. I mean, simple things about how to turn on a pump maybe or flush a filter station. And so we got these guys to understand all those things, and I mean, they love it.
And they're moving up, right? They make more money. They're moving up in their
Correct.
career,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I always
And
find that fun too. Is just seeing that guy on the quad to being the guy in the truck to being the guy writing down the information and reporting back to you like are really moving because they got a chance, right? And
Right.
some people want it,
Yeah,
right?
correct. Yeah.
And that's so again, here is and back to the Ag Center, I feel most people listening are 25 to 35. Luis Gil is a guy who wants it. I personally have not met too many people. I'm sure when Luis was with his father on a grape harvester, he had a dream of owning a ranch for himself, right?
Well, back then it was probably owning a grape harvester, right?
But
And then
but let's be honest, you own ranches yourself now.
yeah, I own a few ranches.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he owns a little bit more than a few. And to say that you can't do those things is kind of bullshit because you've done it. And you've done it by hard work. You've done it by keeping your head down. And I think one thing I respect and admire out of Luis and the things he's taught me is it's just he's number one, he's a early riser, a lot earlier than me and a lot earlier than most people I know. And the guy just I always say is answer your phone. The guy answers his phone at any time. He has a response. And if he doesn't, he pauses and he thinks about it, or I'll get back to you. He thinks about everything. And everybody I talk to, they always say, God, Luis just asked so many questions. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That is why he becomes good, and what's made him good at everything he does is because it's sometimes the humility is to ask that question, right? And that's really hard. It's hard working around a guy like Russell Harris to say, hey, Russell, I don't get what you mean right now, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think Russell likes people asking questions. I mean, he would always tell me,
But
"You gotta
it's
ask
still
questions."
hard to ask the question.
Oh, it is. I mean, it's an effort.
Yeah.
Like, you
Or humility, right? Like to say, I don't know, right?
yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
mean by that? Or I
Yeah.
don't understand that. And most people, I mean, if you're in a room of 10 people, probably
Yeah.
6 out of those 10 don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like, thank God he asked that question.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually the man asking the question feels the dumbest, but he's actually the smartest guy in the room because he's willing to do that, And I enjoy my conversations with Luis because I get educated because I'm like, there is just so many times I just feel dumbfounded and I'm like, why did I not think of that? Why did I not do that? And not only do I take that, I'm fortunate enough to take that to my farming and call, Josh Bonds or somebody who works for me right away and go, hey, did you think of that? And they're like, no, I didn't think of that. I mean, I know my words just sound kind of dumb right now, but they're really what makes a person is being able to figure out those little things that make our farms go round. Because there is a lot that goes into a big operation like you run right now, right? And it's head on every day, right? It's because you're not like most farmers where farming 300-400 acres and then come after harvest we get to relax till then. You're into development and then you're into this and that pollen season.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's always been something.
It doesn't stop,
Never
right?
stops. Yeah.
It does that bother you, or does that you like that?
No, I think I like that the best.
You couldn't help it.
I mean, I think if it was just, the regular, maintenance of farming and
Yeah.
just an orchard, I think it'd be kind of boring. I mean, kind of just like clockwork.
Mhm.
But we're developing stuff, ripping stuff out. Now we're gonna put tomatoes in. I mean, There's always something going on.
How many different crops are you
I mean,
farming?
today we even shot a music video.
Yeah. And he was the guest. He was the main singer on it today.
No, I was just an extra. In the
What's
back.
your favorite? Oh, first of all, how many crops do you farm?
We got 4 crops: walnuts, almonds, pistachios,
Grapes.
and grapes. And then we'll do some, annual. We got some wheat,
Tomatoes and
corn. We ever
corn,
plant
yeah.
every now and then.
Yep. What's your favorite?
Probably all of them. I mean, all of them for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's I like them all. I think the more difficult one's probably the grapes right now.
Really?
Yeah.
What is for a young guy out there right now? What kind of advice can you shoot at a young guy right now? That's hey, should I go into farming? Should I management, PCA? I mean,
I
what
think water, understanding the whole water system in the valley.
is that your biggest threat right now for yourself? What are
I
you
think-
spending?
I
What's a
think-
day in Luis Gil's life now? I mean, where are you spending most of your focus, or becoming your biggest issue?
Well, I mean, I think it's the things we don't know. Like, are we getting that right rate of water coming out of the emitter? I mean, now we got to make every drop count,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, if we're gonna be scarce on water, and I think it probably starts from a well. If say you drilled a well 12 years ago, like going back to Russell, wanting to do it right, spending the money, and making sure it's 100% good.
Yeah.
We had a couple wells we drilled 10 years ago, and we had to pull the pump because we noticed some gravel was coming up, and it was coming out of a well.
Broken.
So you had a broken casing, right?
Yep.
The well's 10 years old.
It's not that old.
No. So we had it look, we take the well out, we put a camera in the well,
It's probably when I drilled. No, that would have been.
and at 300 feet we see a break.
God.
So we go in there and we swedge it, patch it up, and then we start going deeper, and we see another break at 500 feet. So there's 2 breaks in there. And as we're going in there, we find the breaks, we patch them, and we're looking at the perforations. Perforations are plugged up.
Yep.
They're in a video, and a perforation is just kind of a slit in a piece of metal, right? And water flows through that to go in your well, and you suck it out.
Like a straw with holes, right?
Yeah, pretty
Yep.
much a straw with some light holes in there. And so all those perforations are dirty, and I mean they look completely plugged. We go in there and we pressure wash it with this. They run this.
It's like a a swedger, like a
It-
high
it-
pressure washer.
Well, it's just probably like a 3-inch pipe going in down the well, and it has several nozzles like on a bearing that spin,
Mhm.
and they spin and they throw out pressure at 16,000 pounds of pressure, and it pressure washes the casing. If you have weak casing, you're gonna blow a hole through the casing. So you got to have some good stuff. And Russell wants to put the thickest casing you can find.
Roscoe Moss.
Yeah, and he'd put the thickest stuff in there, and so we pressure washed it. We didn't have it wasn't gonna rupture that casing, and you clean off all the debris or bacteria, calcium buildup, whatever's going in there. So back to I think you got to start from a well. Maybe check your wells out and make sure you're getting your well the right water inside that casing.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, water is just a big focus, right? So trying to make sure you got that.
Yep.
And making sure you're making every drop count.
However, your team has made a big effort into developing into new water areas, right?
Sure. Yeah, and then we have Michael Scheller and Dominic are out there checking this stuff daily. They go to every block we have on the ranch, and they check every week. They'll check a different spot on each block. They'll check 2 corners, and they'll check the pressure.
DUs or like,
Yeah, they're checking pressures at the end of the field, at the end of, at
the lines.
by the figure eight.
Yep.
They're doing that, and they're checking we put chlorine and acid almost in every system we have now, so they're checking the pH levels and the levels of the chlorine in our lines, and then they check our filter stations, making sure that everything running through the filter stations is on point. checking pressures,
It's a lot of shit.
and Dominic and Michael have done an awesome job doing that, and they haven't, um, it's all on record, and so I mean, we found a lot of mistakes. There's been, I mean, there's just
Hopefully it wasn't central irrigation.
well, no, it's just the maintenance of
for sure,
our guys,
for sure.
but no, it's been really good.
What's your goal? Like, I think things move so fast here, right? You ever changing. Like me and we're talking every couple days, and it's just like, holy cow, right? From both our sides. Where do you see yourself? What's your goal to finish? I mean, your career has just began, but where do you see yourself going? Where do you see your team and with everything you got going? You got your own land, you got your own management, you're running all Russell stuff, and you got all these new young guys underneath you. What's Luis Gil's goal in 5 years or 10 years? I mean, where do you see this all going?
I mean, I just hope it doesn't end, right? Because sometimes I think like, man, this thing could end tomorrow. Like, then what are we gonna do, right? I mean, I just hope that wake up in the morning. Thank God that we wake up and just keep it going. But I mean, my goal is, I mean, probably eventually own a lot more land one day.
Yeah.
And just be a good steward to the land.
Well, you're on the right track on that.
And I mean, I think all you guys too, right? I mean, you're part of the family, and it's been
I'm the dumb one. I'm the dumb Okie that married into the family. I guess Russell's an Okie too, though.
Well,
no, you're an inspiration to a lot of young guys. You really are, and that's like today. Speaking here, I know we haven't done this in a long time, but Young Entrepreneurs, the series we're going to come out with when we release this, is just people who got it at a young age. It's hard to train it when you get older. I know we talk about our kids all the time and training our children. I mean, Luis is a family man. I should have said, Sonia, first of all, please mention your family.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, thank her for everything too, for all her patience and giving me the time to do what I do. I mean, she's at home. She was out for a few days last week. She was real sick. She didn't have COVID, but I mean, poor thing was out of bed. I mean, she was in bed for like 3 days. She couldn't even walk. And I had to make the kids breakfast, take them to school, and then I had to pick them up and make them dinner, take care of Sonia. And that was for 3 days. It was tough.
And I always like talking to Luis. I'll call him on Sunday. I'll be like, hey, are you on the ranch drive? Because he's got his kids with him. I appreciate that. And it sounds like, he's giving back to his daughters and his son and his Sonia. And it's a beautiful thing. I get to hang out with them, and he's teaching his kids that life. And, that's a big deal to him and myself. And I think he took what he learned from his father, who was extremely hard worker. He respects and admires, and has taken that to a full force fledged into being successful in everything he's doing today. And it's not easy. I'm sure not too many people want to wear Luis Gil's boots, but it is possible for young guys to do it. So I want to thank you today for doing this. I know I caught you off guard. You don't like doing this kind of stuff because you're a humble guy, but it's okay to, really admire people's successes. And that's like my biggest pleasure in life, is to be around people like that, as well as get to acknowledge that. And we get to pass that on to, because in the end, that's what it's really all about. Training these young guys like Dominic. Hopefully he's the guy sitting where you're at someday. He's got a long way to go, but we just keep passing the torch on. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, Luis, cheers to you.
Cheers, man.
Tell us, buddy, and thank you very much. Friendship and everything you've done.
Thank you.
We're out.